My daughter transferred $300 for my blood pressure medication, but the message that came with it made my stomach turn. Mom, this can't become a habit. You need to manage your finances better. Kisses. The next morning, I inherited $99 million from Uncle Porter. If you're watching this, subscribe and let me know where you're watching from. I was standing in the pharmacy, counting the crumpled bills in my wallet when I made that call. The pharmacist was patient, but I could see the line growing behind me. My hands shook a little as I dialed Samantha's number. Hi, sweetheart. I'm so sorry to bother you, but could you help me with $300? It's for my medication and the electric bill. Sure, Mom. I'll transfer it now. Relief flooded through me. At least she said yes. But then my phone buzzed with that message, and I felt my cheeks burn with shame. The pharmacist pretended not to notice as I fumbled with my phone, trying to close it quickly. I managed my finances just fine for 65 years. Thank you very much. It's just that Social Security doesn't exactly cover the lifestyle of a woman who spent 30 years teaching high school English for peanuts. Walking home to my small rental apartment, I thought about Uncle Porter. Poor man had been alone in that hospital for months. His own children lived across the country and visited maybe twice a year, Christmas and his birthday, if he was lucky. But I went every day after his stroke. I brought him homemade soup, read him books, held his hand when the nurses weren't around. Margot, he used to say, you're the only one who gives a damn about this old fool. I'd laugh and tell him he wasn't old or foolish, just lonely. Aren't we all? The next morning, my phone rang at exactly 9 a.m. Unknown number. Mrs. Whitmore. This is James Collins, attorney for the late Porter Williams. I need to speak with you about his will. My heart sank. Oh no. Did something happen to the arrangements? I can't afford much, but Mrs. Whitmore, you've inherited his entire estate. $99 million. I sat down hard on my kitchen chair, the same chair where I'd read Samantha's patronizing message the day before. I'm sorry, what did you say? $99 million, ma'am, plus real estate holdings. Mr. Williams left everything to you. I stared at my phone screen, still showing yesterday's message thread with my daughter. The words, can't become a habit, seemed to pulse on the screen. Mrs. Whitmore, are you there? Yes, I'm here. I was here all right. And for the first time in years, I was smiling. Mr. Collins, I think we need to meet. Soon. After hanging up, I made myself a cup of coffee and sat in my tiny kitchen, looking at Samantha's message one more time. Then I deleted it. She was right about one thing. This definitely wasn't going to become a habit, but what was about to happen at her birthday party? That was going to be very interesting indeed. 3 days later, I stood outside the glass doors of the downtown high-rise where Samantha was throwing her birthday party. Through the windows, I could see the rooftop terrace filled with 20-somethings in designer clothes, ring lights, and enough camera equipment to film a movie. I'd chosen my best dress, the navy blue one I'd altered 3 times over the years to keep it current. It was clean, pressed, and presentable. Just not $3,000 purse presentable. Yet. Mom, you made it! Samantha's voice carried that particular tone reserved for when cameras were rolling. All brightness and performance. The terrace was stunning. I'll give her that. City lights twinkled below, and someone had spent serious money on the setup. Influencers posed with branded cocktails, while cameramen captured every angle. This was Samantha's world. The world of Boss Mom Sam, financial guru to millennials who thought investing meant buying designer handbags on credit. I clutched my small wrapped gift and tried to stay out of the way. The present was simple, a small photo album I'd made with pictures of Samantha from childhood, back when she still hugged me without checking who was watching. Sam, what a gorgeous party. One of her influencer friends, a blonde with lips so full she could barely close them, grabbed Samantha's arm. That gift is so cute. Where's it from? Oh, that's from my mom. Samantha glanced at my wrapped present with the kind of look you'd give a questionable piece of meat. She made it herself. The group of perfectly contoured faces turned to me with polite smiles that didn't reach their eyes. How sweet, Lip Girl said. Homemade gifts are so authentic. I felt my cheeks warm. I thought you might like some old photos. Remember that time at the beach when you built that sandcastle and… Mom, Samantha's smile tightened. These are my business partners. Right, business partners, not friends. Everything was content, everything was a brand opportunity, even her own birthday party. Later, as the night wore on and the drinks flowed freely, I found myself standing alone by the railing. The conversation had turned to real estate, always a safe topic among people obsessed with appearing successful. I'm still trying to get into Meridian Tower, one woman was saying. The penthouse has been on the market forever, but who has $12 million just lying around? Samantha's been manifesting that apartment for months, someone added. Vision boards and everything. All eyes turned to my daughter, Gay, who laughed nervously. Well, manifesting and actually buying are two different things. But you're doing so well, someone protested. Surely you could qualify for the mortgage. It's not about qualifying, Samantha said. It's about cash flow and timing and… She gestured vaguely, the way people do when they don't want to admit they can't afford something. That's when someone made the mistake of trying to include me in the conversation. What about you, Mrs. Whitmore? What's your dream home like? The group turned to me with polite smiles, probably expecting me to describe some modest cottage or small condo. Actually, I said, I've been thinking about real estate investments lately. Investments? Samantha's voice had an edge to it. Yes, sweetheart. I've been learning about the market. The group was staring now, probably thinking this was some kind of joke. Mom? Samantha said, and there was something cruel in her voice now, something that needed to put me back in my place. You can't even afford a house. Why are you talking about real estate investments? The laughter that followed was sharp and uncomfortable. Not malicious, exactly, but dismissive, the kind of laughter that makes someone feel small. I gripped my purse and felt something shift inside me. Not hurt, that was familiar. This was different. This was clarity. You're right, sweetheart, I said quietly. I can't even afford a house. I didn't mean it like that. Mom, I just meant… I know what you meant. I kissed her cheek and gathered my things. Happy birthday, darling. It was lovely. Walking toward the elevator, I could still hear the conversation resuming behind me, probably about the poor delusional mother who thought she could afford luxury real estate. As the elevator descended, I pulled out my phone and typed a message to Mr. Collins. I'd like to move forward with all arrangements as soon as possible. And Mr. Collins, I want to buy the Meridian Tower penthouse. Cash offer, I want to close within the week. Samantha thought I couldn't afford a house. She was about to learn the difference between couldn't and wouldn't. 99 million? Sandra nearly choked on her coffee. Margot, are you serious? We were sitting in our usual corner booth at Murphy's Diner, the same place we'd been meeting for coffee every Wednesday for the past 10 years. Sandra had been my anchor through the divorce, my retirement, and every family drama in between. Dead serious. Uncle Porter's will was read yesterday morning. And you didn't tell me immediately? I was processing it myself. Plus, I wanted to see how Samantha's party went first. How did it go? I told her about the homemade gift, about the conversation by the railing, about Samantha's comment and the laughter that followed. She said, what? Sandra's voice could have cut glass. That I can't even afford a house, so why was I talking about real estate investments? In front of everyone? In front of everyone. Sandra was quiet for a long moment. What are you going to do? I already did it. I bought the apartment she's been obsessing over. You bought what apartment? The $12 million penthouse at Meridian Tower. I close tomorrow. Sandra stared at me for a full 10 seconds before bursting into laughter. Not cruel laughter like at the party, but the kind of deep, satisfying laughter that comes from seeing justice served. Margot Whitmore, you magnificent woman. I'm not done yet. What do you mean? I mean I'm going to let her find out the hard way. The next morning, I was signing papers in Mr. Collins' office that would make me the owner of a $12 million penthouse. The irony wasn't lost on me that I was buying my daughter's dream apartment less than 24 hours after she'd humiliated me about not being able to afford a house. Are you certain about this purchase, Mrs. Whitmore? Mr. Collins asked. Absolutely certain. It's a significant portion of your inheritance. Mr. Collins, when you have $99 million, $12 million is a rounding error. He smiled and handed me the keys. The previous owner left most of the furnishings. It's move-in ready. Perfect. That afternoon, I hired a financial advisor, updated my will, everything to charity, not a penny to Samantha, and started the process of learning how to be rich. It was more complicated than I'd expected, but also more satisfying. The really satisfying part, though, would come later. Because I knew Samantha. I knew her obsession with that penthouse, her habit of checking real estate listings obsessively. It wouldn't be long before she discovered that someone had bought her dream apartment. And when she did, she was going to get the surprise of her life. I spent the weekend moving into my new home, marveling at the view from 42 floors up. From here, my old rental apartment was invisible, just another dot in the urban sprawl that people like Samantha's friends preferred not to think about. Sunday evening, I got a text from Samantha. Mom, haven't heard from you since the party. Everything okay? I looked around my new penthouse with its imported marble and designer furniture, then typed back, Everything's perfect, sweetheart. Just making some changes in my life. Changes? Oh, small steps. If only she knew how big those steps really were. But she was about to find out. The call came exactly 3 days later, while I was enjoying my morning coffee from my new Italian espresso machine and reading the Wall Street Journal, something I'd never been able to afford before. Mom, are you sitting down? I'm fine, Samantha. What's wrong? I need to ask you something, and please be honest with me. Of course, sweetheart. Someone bought the Meridian Tower penthouse, the one I wanted. Oh, that's too bad. Mom, it was a cash sale, $12 million. In cash. That's a lot of money. The realtor won't tell me who bought it, but Mom, did Uncle Porter leave you money? There it was. The question I'd been waiting for. Why do you ask? Because Ethan was handling some of Uncle Porter's estate paperwork. He was one of his attorneys, and he found something in the will. Ethan Blake, my son-in-law, the corporate lawyer, who'd been polite to me exactly twice in 5 years, at their wedding, and when he thought he might get something out of it. What did he find? Mom, did Uncle Porter leave you $99 million? I could have lied, could have played dumb, bought myself more time to watch her scramble. Instead, I decided on honesty. Yes, he did. The silence stretched so long, I thought the call had dropped. Samantha, are you there? I need to come see you, right now. I'm not at the apartment anymore. Where are you? I'm at home. What home? My new home, the one I bought with my inheritance money. Another long pause. Mom, where exactly is your new home? Meridian Tower, penthouse level. I hung up before she could respond. 20 minutes later, the private elevator chimed, and Samantha stepped directly into my living room, looking like she'd seen a ghost. Mom, what the hell is happening? Hello, darling. Coffee? She stood in my doorway, looking around at the marble floors, the designer furniture, the view that she'd been dreaming about for months. Mom, this is the penthouse. I know. The $12 million penthouse. I know. You bought this place? Last Friday. Cash offer. Samantha walked slowly into the living room, her designer bag forgotten on the floor. She moved like someone in a dream, touching the furniture, staring out the windows. You bought this place, she repeated. With my inheritance money. Yes, the inheritance you didn't tell me about. The inheritance I received the day after your birthday party. She turned to face me then, and I could see her brain working, calculating timelines. The day after my party? That's right. So when I made that comment about you not being able to afford a house, you were speaking to someone who had just become worth $99 million. Yes. The color drained from her face as she realized what she'd done. She'd humiliated a multimillionaire in front of her friends and followers. Mom, I had no idea. If I'd known, you'd have what? Treated me differently? You would have been nicer to me because I had money? That's not what I meant. Then what did you mean? She couldn't answer, which was answer enough. I poured myself another cup of coffee and settled into my new Italian leather chair. Tell me, how did Ethan find out about the inheritance? He was Uncle Porter's attorney. He handled the estate paperwork. All of it? Well, some of it. The firm represents several elderly clients. I thought about that for a moment. Ethan had access to Uncle Porter's will, which meant he'd known about my inheritance from the beginning. Yet he'd said nothing until now. Samantha, when exactly did Ethan tell you about the inheritance? Yesterday, when he found out about the penthouse sale. So he's known for days that I inherited $99 million, but only told you when he realized I was spending it? She was quiet, probably realizing how that sounded. Mom, why didn't you tell me? Tell you what? That I'd inherited money? Yes. When? Before your party, so you could treat me like a human being? After your party, so you could apologize for humiliating me? I never meant to humiliate you. Then what did you mean to do? I was just making conversation. Calling your mother financially incompetent in front of your friends was making conversation? She sat down heavily on my new sofa, looking smaller than I'd seen her since she was a child. I'm sorry. For which part? All of it. The party, the comment, not visiting Uncle Porter. Not visiting Uncle Porter when he was poor. You mean, that's not fair, isn't it? He was family, Samantha. He was alone and dying, and you couldn't be bothered to visit him once. I was busy building my business. You were busy building a brand. There's a difference. My phone buzzed with a text from the building's concierge service, welcoming me to my new home. Samantha glanced at it and saw the sender. How many people know you live here? Everyone who needs to know. Does this mean, are you okay? Financially, I mean? I looked at my daughter, sitting in my multi-million-dollar apartment, asking if I was financially okay. Samantha, I could buy this entire building if I wanted to. The building? The whole building. Cash. She stared at me like I'd grown a second head. What happens now? She asked finally. Now you get to watch me figure out what to do with more money than either of us ever imagined. And us? What happens to us? I finished my coffee and stood up. That depends. On what? On whether you can love a mother who doesn't need your help anymore. As I walked her to the elevator, Samantha turned back to look at my penthouse one more time. Mom? Yes? I really am sorry. About everything. I know you are. Sweetheart, does that matter? I thought about it for a moment. It's a start. But as the elevator doors closed and I was left alone in my beautiful new home, I couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning. Samantha knew about the money now, and knowing Samantha, she wouldn't just accept this new reality. She'd want to be part of it, and that's when things were about to get very interesting. I was right about Samantha not accepting the new reality quietly. 1 week after her visit to my penthouse, she showed up with her husband Ethan and an expression I'd never seen before. The kind lawyers wear when they're about to deliver bad news wrapped in concern. Mom, we need to talk. Ethan Blake was everything you'd expect from a corporate attorney married to an influencer, perfectly groomed, expensively dressed, and about as warm as a tax audit. As Uncle Porter's attorney, he'd had access to the will from the beginning, which explained how he'd discovered my inheritance so quickly. Of course, sweetheart. Come in. They settled into my Italian leather furniture like they belonged there, which irritated me more than it should have. Ethan was looking around the apartment with the calculating gaze of someone appraising assets. Beautiful place, he said. Must have been quite an adjustment. Moving from your old apartment. Not really. Turns out rich and poor people both sleep in beds and eat at tables. The main difference is the thread count. Samantha laughed nervously. Mom's been adjusting well to her new lifestyle. That's actually what we wanted to discuss, Ethan said, settling into his practiced, concerned professional pose. Mrs. Whitmore, $99 million is a tremendous responsibility. Is it? Absolutely. The tax implications alone are staggering. Then there's estate planning, investment strategy, asset protection. He ticked off points on his manicured fingers. It's complex stuff. I've hired professionals. That's good. But he exchanged a look with Samantha. Well, at your age, sometimes it helps to have family involved in these decisions. At my age, I was 65, not 95, but I let him continue. What Ethan means, Samantha jumped in, is that we want to help. This is new territory for you, and we have experience with significant assets. Do you? Well, Ethan does. He works with wealthy clients all the time. For a fee, I assume. Well, yes, but this is different. This is family. Family. The same family that had been too busy for Uncle Porter when he was dying alone in a hospital. What exactly are you proposing? Just guidance, Ethan said. Someone to help you navigate the complexities of wealth management, review major purchases, investment decisions, that sort of thing. Like a financial advisor? More like a financial consultant. Someone to make sure you don't make any costly mistakes. Mistakes like buying this apartment? That's not what we meant. Then what did you mean? They exchanged another look. In their practiced conversation, I was supposed to be grateful for their concern, eager to hand over control to the professionals. We mean decisions made without proper family consultation, Ethan said carefully. Family consultation on how I spend my own money, when the amounts are this large? Yes, a single poor decision could cost millions. I stood up and walked to my floor-to-ceiling windows, looking down at the city below. From 42 floors up, people looked like ants, scurrying around with their little ant problems. Let me ask you something, I said, without turning around. When you processed Uncle Porter's will, what exactly were you looking for? Silence behind me. Ethan, you did process it deliberately, didn't you? It wasn't just routine paperwork. Mrs. Whitmore, as his attorney, I was responsible for executing his final wishes. That's not what I asked. I reviewed all the documents, yes. Looking for what? Making sure everything was in order. Or making sure you knew who inherited what. Mrs. Whitmore, I think you're misunderstanding. Am I? I turned back to face them. 6 months ago, Samantha complained about me asking for $300. Now you want to help me manage $99 million? This is different. How? Because now the stakes are higher, Ethan said, apparently deciding honesty was the best policy. Mistakes at this level can be catastrophic. Catastrophic for whom? For everyone involved. I looked at my daughter and son-in-law, both explaining why I needed their help to manage the money I'd inherited by caring for a man they'd ignored. I appreciate your concern, I said finally, but I'm not some confused old woman who can't handle her own affairs. Of course not, Samantha said quickly. Good. Then you won't mind if I continue making my own decisions? Absolutely. We just want to be available if you need advice. That's very thoughtful. I walked them to the elevator, and we exchanged polite goodbyes. But as the doors closed, I caught a glimpse of Ethan's expression. He looked like a man who'd just watched a winning lottery ticket blow away in the wind. After they left, I called my financial advisor, Sarah Chen. Sarah, I need to ask you something confidential. Of course. How common is it for family members to try to gain control of elderly relatives' finances? More common than you'd think. Why? My daughter and son-in-law just offered to help manage my money. What kind of help? The kind that involves reviewing all my financial decisions. Mrs. Whitmore, you might want to be very careful about that. Why? Because once family members position themselves as financial guardians, it can be difficult to maintain your independence. I thought about Ethan's calculating looks, about Samantha's sudden concern for my well-being, about their emphasis on family consultation for major decisions. What would you recommend? Document everything. Keep detailed records of all interactions. And Mrs. Whitmore? Yes? Don't sign anything without having your own attorney review it first. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about the way they'd looked around my apartment, the way they'd emphasized how inexperienced I was with wealth. They weren't wrong. I was inexperienced, but I wasn't stupid. And something about their visit felt less like family concern and more like a business proposition. The difference was, now I had the resources to find out which it really was. 2 weeks later, my instincts proved correct when I received a call from Sandra. Margot, you need to know something. My neighbor who works at the courthouse says there's been a petition filed against you. I was having my morning coffee in my new dining room, enjoying the view. What kind of petition? A request for psychological evaluation to determine your competency to manage your own finances. The coffee cup slipped from my hands, shattering on my marble floor. Filed by whom? Your daughter and son-in-law. They're claiming you're showing signs of cognitive decline and need protection from making harmful financial decisions. I felt something cold settle in my stomach. Based on what evidence? According to the filing, you've been making erratic purchases, showing confusion about financial matters, and expressing paranoid concerns about people trying to take your money. The irony was staggering. Everything I'd done to protect myself was being used as evidence that I needed protection from myself. Sandra, I need help. Do you know any lawyers who specialize in this? My niece Rebecca Torres. She's a retired police detective who now works as a private investigator specializing in elder abuse cases. I met Rebecca that afternoon at a coffee shop downtown. She was exactly what I needed. Sharp, experienced, and thoroughly unimpressed by family drama involving money. Mrs. Whitmore, I've handled dozens of cases like this. Adult children who suddenly become concerned about their parents' mental state right after the parents come into money. How often do they succeed? More often than they should. The courts generally err on the side of caution when it comes to protecting elderly people. Even when the threat is coming from the family, especially then. She opened a manila folder and showed me several court documents. I did some preliminary research on your son-in-law. Interesting pattern here. What kind of pattern? He's handled estate planning for several elderly clients over the past few years. 3 of them were subsequently declared incompetent and had court-appointed guardians assigned. Let me guess, Ethan was appointed guardian? Or someone in his network? It's a profitable business, Mrs. Whitmore. Guardian fees, care facility costs, administrative charges. The elderly person's assets get systematically drained while they're in protective care. I felt sick. How do we fight this? First, we get you properly evaluated by an independent psychiatrist, someone with impeccable credentials who can't be influenced. And then we document everything, every conversation, every interaction. If they're planning to have you declared incompetent, they'll need to show a pattern of confused or irrational behavior. What if they manufacture evidence? They might try. Has anyone suggested you've had medical consultations that you don't remember? I thought about it. Not yet. They will. It's part of the playbook. Claim the person is so confused they don't remember seeing doctors. How do I protect myself? Record everything. Keep detailed logs of all your activities. Get that psychiatric evaluation immediately. That evening, I called Samantha. Hi, sweetheart. How are you? Mom, I'm good. How are you settling into the new place? Very well. Listen, I wanted to ask you about something. Has anyone mentioned that I might need medical evaluation of some kind? Silence on the other end. Medical evaluation for what? I'm not sure. I thought Ethan might have mentioned something about psychological testing. Oh, that. Mom, we're just concerned about the stress of managing so much money. Sometimes it helps to have a professional assess whether someone needs additional support. What kind of support? Just guidance, help with decision-making. And you think I need that kind of help? We just want to make sure you're okay. After hanging up, I called Rebecca. They're already setting up the narrative. Stress, need for support, concern about decision-making. That's standard. Mrs. Whitmore, we need to move fast. How fast? I can arrange a comprehensive psychiatric evaluation for tomorrow. Dr. Sarah Martinez, she's testified in dozens of competency cases and has never been successfully challenged. Do it. The next morning, I spent 3 hours with Dr. Martinez being put through comprehensive testing, memory evaluations, cognitive function tests, psychological assessments. Mrs. Whitmore, she concluded, your cognitive function is not only normal, it's above average for your age group. Your memory is excellent. Your reasoning skills are sharp, and your financial decision-making shows careful consideration and good judgment. Will you document that? Absolutely. And Mrs. Whitmore, whoever suggested you have cognitive decline was either mistaken or deliberately misrepresenting your mental state. Armed with my clean bill of mental health, I felt ready for whatever Samantha and Ethan were planning. But I wasn't prepared for just how dirty they were willing to fight. Because the next week, I discovered they weren't just planning to question my competency. They were planning to have me committed. The court hearing was scheduled for 3 weeks later, giving me just enough time to gather evidence and prepare my defense. What Rebecca discovered during those 3 weeks changed everything I thought I knew about my daughter and son-in-law. Mrs. Whitmore, this goes deeper than we thought. We were sitting in Rebecca's office, surrounded by documents and photographs. How much deeper? Your son-in-law has been running this scam for years. 4 elderly clients in the past 5 years, all declared incompetent, all with their assets systematically drained through inflated care costs and guardian fees. She showed me photographs of elderly men and women who looked confused and frightened. What happened to them? 2 are deceased. 1 is in a state facility with advanced dementia. The 4th, Margaret Chen, was lucky. Her family fought back before all the money was gone. And Ethan profited from all of this? Millions in guardian fees and kickbacks from overpriced service providers. What about the fake medical evaluation they're planning? Dr. Richard Patterson. He's provided false evaluations for at least 6 conservatorship cases, always in favor of Ethan's clients. Can we prove it's fraud? We can prove Dr. Patterson never examined you. That should be enough. The morning of the hearing, I dressed carefully. Navy suit, pearl earrings, the kind of outfit that suggested competence and dignity. Samantha and Ethan were already in the courtroom when I arrived, huddled with their attorney. Mrs. Whitmore, Judge Harrison began, this is a petition for competency evaluation filed by your daughter and son-in-law. They claim you're unable to manage your financial affairs due to cognitive decline. How do you respond? Your Honor, I respond that this petition is fraudulent and motivated by greed. Murmurs rippled through the courtroom. Samantha's attorney stood up. Your Honor, this kind of paranoid accusation is exactly what we're concerned about. Mrs. Whitmore has become suspicious of family members who are genuinely concerned about her welfare. Let's hear the evidence, Judge Harrison said. They called Dr. Patterson first. Dr. Patterson, did you evaluate Mrs. Whitmore? Yes, I conducted a comprehensive evaluation. And what did you find? Clear signs of cognitive decline, memory issues, confusion, poor judgment. Rebecca stood up. Objection, Your Honor. Dr. Patterson's appointment records show no scheduled meeting with Mrs. Whitmore. Is that correct, Dr. Patterson? Dr. Patterson looked like a man drowning. Well, it was more of an informal consultation. Where did this consultation take place? At a restaurant, over lunch. You conducted a psychological evaluation during a lunch meeting? I observed concerning behaviors. What specific behaviors? She seemed confused about basic financial concepts. Did you conduct any cognitive tests? The circumstances didn't allow for formal testing. So you're testifying about Mrs. Whitmore's mental capacity based on observations during a lunch meeting that isn't documented anywhere? Your Honor, Samantha's attorney interrupted. Dr. Patterson is a respected psychiatrist who apparently diagnoses dementia over appetizers, Rebecca replied. Judge Harrison was not amused. Then it was our turn. Dr. Martinez took the stand and methodically destroyed Dr. Patterson's credibility. She walked through my comprehensive evaluation in detail. Memory tests, cognitive assessments, psychological evaluations. All normal, all documented, all conducted according to professional standards. In your professional opinion, is Mrs. Whitmore capable of managing her own affairs? Absolutely. Her cognitive function is excellent. She shows no signs of dementia, confusion, or impaired judgment. Then Rebecca called Margaret Chen as a witness. Mrs. Chen, can you tell us what happened when Mr. Blake became your court-appointed guardian? He told me it was temporary. Within 6 months, my house was sold, my investments were liquidated, and I was moved to a care facility that cost $8,000 a month. How much of your original estate remained? $12,000 out of $1.2 million. The impact on the courtroom was immediate. Judge Harrison looked physically disgusted. Finally, I took the stand. Mrs. Whitmore, why do you think your daughter filed this petition? Because she's desperate. She and her husband are drowning in debt, and they see my inheritance as their solution. Are you mentally competent? Your Honor, I taught high school English for 30 years. If I can manage classrooms full of teenagers and survive 3 decades of budget cuts, I can certainly handle my own checkbook. The courtroom laughed. Even Judge Harrison smiled. Judge Harrison deliberated for 10 minutes. Petition denied. Mrs. Whitmore, you are clearly competent to manage your own affairs. This court finds no evidence of cognitive decline. Then he looked at Samantha and Ethan with disgust. However, I am referring this matter to the district attorney for investigation into possible elder abuse and fraud. As we left the courthouse, Ethan grabbed my arm. This isn't over, Mrs. Whitmore. Yes, it is. You have no idea what you've done. I've protected myself from thieves, even when those thieves happen to be related to me. That evening, I celebrated with Rebecca and Dr. Martinez at the city's finest restaurant. For the first time in months, I felt truly free. But freedom, I was about to learn, sometimes comes with unexpected consequences. 2 days later, the district attorney's office called, and that's when the real story began to unfold. Detective Sarah Chen looked like she'd seen every form of human greed imaginable and was tired of all of it. Mrs. Whitmore, we've been investigating your son-in-law for 6 months. Your case was the breakthrough we needed. We were sitting in her office, surrounded by files and evidence boxes. What exactly has he been doing? Running a sophisticated conservatorship scam. He identifies elderly clients with significant assets, manufactures evidence of cognitive decline, gets them declared incompetent, and then systematically drains their estates. She opened a thick folder and spread photographs across her desk. These are his victims, 4 elderly people in the past 5 years, all declared incompetent based on evaluations from Dr. Patterson, all with their assets stripped clean. What happened to them? 2 are deceased. 1 is in a state facility with advanced dementia, though we suspect some of that confusion was chemically induced. The 4th, Margaret Chen, was lucky. Chemically induced? Unnecessary medications that cause confusion, memory loss, and disorientation. It's more common than you'd think in elder abuse cases. I felt a chill. Are you saying they drug people to make them seem incompetent? It's one method, easier than trying to prove someone is naturally confused when they're actually sharp. But I was never medicated. No. But you were going to be. We found communications between your daughter and a Dr. Morrison who runs a private psychiatric facility. They were planning to have you committed for observation after the conservatorship was approved. Committed? She pulled out printed text messages. These are between your daughter and son-in-law. Would you like to read them? The messages laid out their plan in detail. How they'd have me declared incompetent, committed to Dr. Morrison's facility, and then systematically drain my accounts while I was kept medicated and isolated. Samantha's message, how long until we can access the money? Ethan's response, once the conservatorship is approved, immediately. I'll be appointed guardian. Samantha, and she'll be in the facility the whole time? Ethan, as long as necessary. Dr. Morrison is very accommodating. I sat in that sterile office, reading my own daughter's messages about having me imprisoned and drugged, and felt something fundamental break inside me. Mrs. Whitmore, they weren't just planning to steal your money. They were planning to steal your life. What do you need from me? Your cooperation in building a case. We want to prosecute them for conspiracy to commit fraud, elder abuse, and attempted kidnapping. Kidnapping? Unlawful commitment to a psychiatric facility constitutes kidnapping under state law. Will you have enough evidence to convict? With your testimony and what we've gathered? Yes. But Mrs. Whitmore, this will be public. Your daughter's career will be destroyed. I thought about Samantha's Instagram posts about family values, her brand built on financial empowerment, her 1 million followers who look to her for inspiration. Detective Chen, my daughter was planning to have me drugged and imprisoned so she could steal my money. Her reputation is the least of my concerns. So you'll cooperate fully? Completely. That evening, I called Rebecca with an update. Rebecca, I need to ask you something. Of course. Do you think there's any chance Samantha was just going along with Ethan's plan? Rebecca was quiet for a long moment. Mrs. Whitmore, do you want me to be honest or kind? Honest. The text messages we found? Most of them were initiated by your daughter. She was asking about timelines, pushing for faster access to your money, suggesting ways to make you seem more confused. So this was her idea? At minimum, she was an enthusiastic partner. The next morning, I made a decision that would end my relationship with my daughter forever. I called Detective Chen. Detective, I want to press charges. All of them. Are you certain? I'm certain. The district attorney's office needed one final piece of evidence. A recorded conversation where Samantha and Ethan admitted their plans. They wanted me to wear a wire. Mrs. Whitmore, we need to get them to talk about the conservatorship plan and the psychiatric facility. Detective Chen was explaining the process, while a technician fitted me with a recording device so small I could barely feel it. What should I say? Tell them you've been thinking about their offer to help manage your money. See if you can get them to explain their plans for your care. And if they become suspicious, we'll have backup nearby. But these people were planning to steal $99 million. They don't react well when cornered. That afternoon, I made the call. Samantha, it's Mom. I've been thinking about what you and Ethan said about needing help with my finances. Really? Her voice brightened immediately. Really, I think you might be right. This is all very overwhelming. Oh, Mom, I'm so glad you're being reasonable about this. Could you and Ethan come over tonight? I'd like to discuss it properly. Of course, we'll be there at 7. Perfect. And Samantha, bring those papers you mentioned, the ones about financial management. You mean the conservatorship documents? Yes, those. That evening, I set the table with my finest china and prepared dinner. If this was going to be our last meal together, I wanted it to be civilized. Samantha and Ethan arrived carrying flowers and wine, like we were celebrating something. Mom, you look wonderful tonight, Samantha said, kissing my cheek. We made small talk through dinner, but I could see Ethan calculating, probably estimating the value of everything in my apartment. After dinner, we moved to the living room. I've been thinking about what you said, I began. You're right that I'm overwhelmed by all this money. We understand, Samantha said. It's a lot to process. I keep forgetting things, which advisor I talk to, what decisions I've made. Sometimes I feel confused. Ethan leaned forward. That's completely normal for someone adjusting to sudden wealth. Is it just stress, though? Or something more serious? What do you mean? Well, you mentioned psychological evaluation. Do you think there's something wrong with me mentally? Not wrong, Ethan said carefully. But these situations can be overwhelming for people your age. What would happen if I couldn't manage my own affairs anymore? Then someone would need to help you, Samantha said gently. What kind of help? Professional care management. The court would appoint a guardian to make sure your needs are met. Where would I live? There are excellent facilities for people who need additional support, Ethan explained. How much would that cost? Quality care can be expensive, $5,000 to $15,000 per month, plus medical expenses. Would my inheritance pay for all that? Of course, that's what it's for. Even if it cost everything? Mrs. Whitmore, your comfort is more important than preserving wealth, and you would oversee this? The court would appoint qualified professionals, like you, Ethan, if deemed appropriate. For how long? For as long as necessary. Which would be? They exchanged a look. These situations are typically ongoing, Ethan said. So you would manage my money and collect fees until it's all gone? We would ensure you receive proper care. I sat back and looked at them, both explaining how they would systematically strip away everything I owned. It sounds like you've thought this through carefully. We just want what's best for you, Samantha said. Even if what's best for me is losing everything. Money isn't everything, Mom. Easy to say when you're the one spending it. The mask slipped. Ethan's expression hardened. Mrs. Whitmore, if you're not interested in our help— Oh, I'm very interested. In fact, I'm fascinated by your plan to have me declared incompetent and committed to Dr. Morrison's facility. The room went dead silent. Mom, Samantha said slowly, what are you talking about? I'm talking about the text messages you sent discussing timelines for accessing my money. Ethan stood up. Mrs. Whitmore, I think we should leave. Sit down, Ethan. Something in my voice made him sit. You see, I know about Dr. Morrison. I know about the medication protocols. I know about your other victims. Samantha's face had gone white. I'm not confused, sweetheart. I'm angry. As if on cue, there was a knock at my door. Mrs. Whitmore, this is Detective Chen. We have warrants. The door opened and officers entered my living room. Ethan Blake, you're under arrest for conspiracy to commit fraud, elder abuse, and attempted kidnapping. Samantha Whitmore, you're under arrest for conspiracy to commit fraud and elder abuse. As they read them their rights, Samantha looked at me with tears streaming down her face. Mom, how could you do this to me? I didn't do this to you, sweetheart. You did this to yourself. I'm your daughter. Yes, you are. And I loved you enough to stop you from destroying more lives. They led her away in handcuffs. The war was over. I'd won. But victory doesn't always feel the way you expect it to. The media attention was immediate and brutal. Influencer arrested for elder abuse dominated headlines, and Samantha's story became a cautionary tale that went viral faster than any of her financial advice videos ever had. I watched the coverage from my penthouse, feeling a complicated mix of satisfaction and sadness. Samantha's Instagram account went silent. Her brand partnerships evaporated overnight. The empire she'd built, teaching financial responsibility, collapsed when people learned she'd tried to steal her own mother's fortune. 3 weeks later, Detective Chen called with updates. Mrs. Whitmore, we've uncovered additional evidence. Your daughter and son-in-law had already started liquidating some of your assets. What do you mean? They used your personal information to convince one of your investment firms that your daughter was acting on your behalf. They'd stolen $200,000 already. How is that possible? Identity fraud. But there's more. We found evidence they were planning to accelerate the timeline. If the conservatorship had been approved, they were going to claim you needed immediate psychiatric commitment. The trial began 2 months later. I testified about the fake medical evaluations, the pressure to sign over financial control, and the gradual realization that my own daughter was planning to have me imprisoned. Samantha's defense attorney tried to portray her as a victim of Ethan's manipulation, but the text messages and recorded conversations made it clear she'd been an enthusiastic partner. Ethan was sentenced to 12 years in federal prison. Samantha received 5 years and was serving her time at a minimum security facility upstate. After the trial, I made several major changes. I sold the penthouse. It felt tainted by everything that had happened there. Instead, I bought a house in the mountains overlooking a lake, with a garden where I could grow vegetables and flowers. I also established the Porter Williams Foundation, taking Uncle Porter's name to honor the man whose kindness had started this journey. The foundation's mission was helping elderly victims of financial abuse. Margaret Chen became our first board member. Mrs. Whitmore, she said during our first meeting, you've turned your trauma into something that will help thousands of people. That's the goal. 6 months into her sentence, I received a letter from Samantha. She was taking college courses in prison, working toward a degree in social work. The letter included an apology that seemed genuine, not the performative kind she'd perfected for social media, but something real. I wrote back. Not to forgive, that would take time, but to acknowledge that she was still my daughter, and that I hoped she could become someone better. Now, 3 years later, I'm happier than I've ever been. The Porter Williams Foundation has helped recover over $3 million for elder abuse victims, and has successfully prosecuted 17 cases. I've learned that family isn't just about blood, it's about respect, loyalty, and genuine care. My real family now includes Rebecca, Detective Chen, Dr. Martinez, and the volunteers who work with the foundation. As for Samantha, she's eligible for parole next year. Whether we'll have a relationship remains to be seen. But I've learned something important. Sometimes the people who claim to love you most are the ones you need to protect yourself from. The money Uncle Porter left me wasn't just an inheritance. It was a test of character. I passed. Samantha didn't. But maybe she'll get another chance to try. 2 years later, I was tending my garden when the phone rang. The caller ID showed a number I didn't recognize. Mrs. Whitmore, this is Samantha. I sat down on my garden bench, still holding the phone. Hello, sweetheart. I got out yesterday, early release for good behavior and completing my degree. Congratulations? I know I have no right to call you. I know what I did was unforgivable. I looked out at my lake, watching the morning mist rise from the water. Where are you staying? A halfway house in the city. I have a job lined up, entry-level social work, helping elderly people navigate social services. That sounds appropriate. Mrs. Whitmore, Mom, I know I can't undo what I did, but I want you to know that I understand now. What I did to you, what we did to those other people, it was evil. I let her continue. I've spent 2 years thinking about why I did it. The money was part of it, but not all. I think I was so focused on my image, on being successful, that I stopped seeing you as a person. And what did you want? Everything. More followers, more money, more status. When you suddenly had more than I could ever earn, it threatened everything I thought I was. That's a big realization. Prison gives you time to think. I'm not calling to ask for forgiveness. I'm calling to tell you that I'm grateful you stopped me. What are your plans now? Work. make amends where I can, try to help people instead of hurting them, and maybe, someday, try to earn back some small part of your respect. Samantha, yes? I've been getting reports on your prison program, the social work classes, the volunteer work with elderly inmates. You've been keeping track of me? You're still my daughter. That hasn't changed. She was quiet for a long moment. Does that mean there's any chance you could forgive me someday? Forgiveness isn't something you earn. It's something someone chooses to give. I understand. I'm not ready to give it yet. But I'm not saying never. That's more than I deserve. Yes, it is. Mom, I love you. I know saying it now doesn't change anything, but I wanted you to know. I love you too, sweetheart. I always have. 6 months later, Samantha applied to work for the Porter Williams Foundation. Her application was honest about her criminal record and personal connection to me. She wasn't asking for special treatment. She was asking for the chance to help other families avoid her mistakes. The board voted to hire her. It's been a year since then. We work together 3 days a week, helping elderly people who've been victimized by their families. It's hard work, but it's also healing. We're not mother and daughter again. Not yet. Maybe not ever in the way we used to be. But we're something else. 2 women who survived a terrible betrayal and found a way to turn it into something meaningful. Samantha will never inherit a penny from me. That decision is final. Everything I have will go to the foundation when I die. But she doesn't seem to expect anything different. She earns her salary, pays her rent, and volunteers her extra time helping others rebuild their lives. Last week, she helped an 80-year-old man recover $50,000 his grandson had stolen. When he thanked her, I saw something in Samantha's face that I hadn't seen in years. Genuine satisfaction from helping someone else. Maybe that's what redemption looks like. Not getting back what you lost, but becoming someone worth respecting again. Uncle Porter's $99 million taught me many things. That money can be a tool for good or evil. That family bonds can be both the strongest and most dangerous forces in our lives. Most importantly, it taught me that love without boundaries isn't love at all. It's enablement. I set boundaries. I enforced consequences. I protected myself and others from someone I loved more than life itself. And somehow, that might have been the most loving thing I could have done. Samantha once said I couldn't even afford a house. Today, I own my house, free and clear. I have enough money to last several lifetimes. I've helped hundreds of people reclaim their dignity and their assets. And I have something worth more than all of it. I have my self-respect. That's wealth you can't inherit, steal, or lose. That's wealth you have to earn. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to subscribe and feel free to share your story in the comments. Your voice matters.